The public welfare also includes people who are losing everything, their life savings, everything they've earned and saved all the years of their life. In many cases, it feels like it's like a plant withering on a vine. And it's so hard to understand or to recognize or to get that sense of clarity over when communities can start to creep back into normalcy, into being open again, into having commerce and revenues, into companies that desperately need that fuel to drive their engine. It's a very difficult issue, and we have faced tough things before as a country, maybe the toughest. This could be in many ways um, way worse than the terror attacks of 9/11, and I wasn't sure, having lived through that I'd live through anything any worse than that was. Of course, I was in New York at the time with my family, and anybody in and around the New York area knows how dreadful that was. So far, we've had over 23,000 deaths to coronavirus here in the United States, over 582,000 confirmed cases here in America. Worldwide, nearly 2 million people with the virus reported, over 120,000 deaths. The president calls it the silent enemy. And this is a tough time for America. Yesterday, there was a fiery press conference. The task force briefing went a little bit bonkers, at least according to the media, because the president played clips of media folks downplaying the virus in January and February as this blame game continues. And I don't like to spend a lot of time on it, but I am intrigued by one key takeaway from the president's remarks yesterday. It has ignited the anti-Trump world in a way that few things have. I mean, well, let me clarify that. Everything ignites them. They're constantly triggered. They're constantly in a state of perpetual outrage. They never can get over their hatred of the guy. I've really truly never seen anything like this in my life. Although I've never seen a press briefing like yesterday, probably never will again. I think he can't top one day, then he does it again. He played a video featuring all kinds of media types giving him credit. He played a video that showed Democrats from opposing parties giving him credit and crediting the federal government. The media went berserk. I mean, I thought Jonathan Karl from ABC was literally going to slump over onto the floor. He was in the front row sputtering, "How can you play that?" But one of the things the president said has gotten a lot of attention. And I want to focus on this for a few minutes with you, if I may, as we welcome you back to my kitchen Tuesday, April the 14th. We're in the middle of April almost. We're going to get through this. Before you know it, it'll be May. Before you know it, it'll be June. And we're going to start to see daylight. Governor Cuomo of New York yesterday said, and a very important quote, because it's been they've only been going with half of his quote. The half they're going with is the worst is over. In fact, that's what the New York Post put on the front this morning. But he said the worst is over if we continue to be smart. And I agree with him. You know, we're this far into this. We can't blow it now. We've got to continue to try to get this right and continue to push down the new infections, the new hospitalizations, the additional deaths. Thankfully, it appears that's happening. We see the Dow is up today. The markets are performing fairly well. They seem to be responding. And I got a buddy, a neighbor who's a money guy, a market guy, and he always tells me, watch the markets. They know before anybody else does. And so I do. And, it's pretty good advice. Well, I like to see that in the green rather than in the red on the TV screen. Anyway, here's what the president said about his authority. This is cut 16, because now comes the very, very difficult, fragile, complicated decision about how we start opening up America again. How do we do this? Here's what President Trump said yesterday at the task force briefing.
Say my authority, the president's authority, not mine, because it's not me. This is when somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Total. The authority is total.
It's total. It's total. And the governors know that.
So if
the governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
You have a couple of bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the President of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
The President's authority is total. Now, I've been a guy who has believed for many, many years in states' rights. I understand the Constitution. I believe when it comes to this matter, I do understand what the president is claiming. There's been an emergency declaration declared in all 50 states. And in a state of emergency, the president, he says, has the authority to open the country. Here's my dilemma. And we can have that debate. There are smarter people than me who have weighed in on this on both sides. Most people I respect say, no, the president's authority is not total and complete. But here's what I don't understand. Many of the same people who I'm hearing now complaining about his claim yesterday wanted him to exercise that authority and close the country down back in January or February. They're claiming he has blood on his hands because he didn't do so. So forgive me if I'm a little perplexed. Which is it? Do you think he should have the complete and total authority to wave a wand and close down all 50 states in January when, as he put it, there wasn't a single case? We knew it was coming. We thought it was coming. There wasn't one death, not even one infection in January. And his critics say, you should have closed the country down. Now that he wants to reopen the country, they're saying, whoa, you can't do that. You don't have the sole authority to do that. You got to let the governors do that. So again, which is it? Did they want the governors to close because if they don't believe he has the authority to start to reopen the economy unilaterally, if they think he's a crazed dictator and a tyrant, well, then why did they expect him to close the country in January or February? It's got to be one or the other, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't say he's Mother Teresa if he closed the country down January 10th with nobody sick and nobody infected and shut the entire economy down, ruin people's livelihoods, destroy businesses, bring everything to a grinding halt. You didn't do that, Donald Trump. Orange man bad, you're a murderer because you didn't exercise your presidential authority. Yesterday, he wants to put people back to work, and he claims that he has sole authority. Now he's a tyrant and a lunatic and a dictator, and where does he get off saying such a thing? I'm